Namaste.
Namaste.
Good morning to those in California and the western part of the world, and good evening to those joining us from India. Thank you for joining the Global Festival of Oneness, celebrating the life and works of Shankara. And it's indeed an honor to be listening to so many wonderful speakers throughout this festival, starting with Adi Shankara Jayanti on April 28th. And we are having two sessions every day, one in the morning at 6 o'clock IST and one in the evening at 6:30 p.m. IST. And today we have the honor of listening to Professor Vasishtha Narayan Jha, and he has a master's in Sanskrit Vedic group from Banaras Hindu University and a second master's in comparative philosophy from Calcutta University. He has a Kavya Vyakarana Veda Tirtha from Vangya Sanskrit Shiksha Parishad, West Bengal. He also has a PhD from Pune University. He studied Vyakarana, Nyaya, and Mimamsa for over 17 years at the feet of Pandit Shivaramakrishna Shastri and Pandit Srinivas Shastri. Again, throughout this festival, we have seen a true demonstration of Guru Sishya Parampara, and we had the honor of listening to the Gurus sometimes and also the disciples. Here is another example of how Guru Shivaramakrishna Shastri has trained Professor Vasishtha Narayan Jha, who we are going to hear today. Professor Jha has retired from Pune University as Professor and Director, Center for Advanced Studies in Sanskrit, and is also the founder chairperson, Center of Sanskrit Studies at Jawaharlal Nehru University. His interest areas are so many: Veda, Vyakarana, Nyaya, Mimamsa, and many other philosophical systems, linguistics, etc. He's also a visiting professor at Nagoya University in Japan, Humboldt University in Germany, Lausanne University in Switzerland, Munich in Germany, and as well as Mahatma Gandhi University in Mauritius. So that's amazing that you are taking the greatness of Vedanta to all of these wonderful countries. And Professor Jha has also authored over 50 books and 150 research articles. It again seems so prolific, as prolific as Adi Shankara ji. This is wonderful. And Professor Jha has established Rishi Rina Trust. I think this must be Rishi Runa, right?
Yeah.
And how can we ever repay Rishi Runa for all that they have done for us? And I'm so glad you have established a trust, Rishi Runa Trust, for the last 20 years, engaged in promoting the Indian intellectual and our great spiritual culture. You can learn more about his work at vidyavatika.org. What a beautiful name. www.vidyavatika.org. Professor Jha, it's indeed an honor to have you on our festival. And the topic you are speaking about is the meaning of Tattvamasi.
Yeah.
You may begin your presentation, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Tasmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Gurubhyo Namaha. Friends, it's a matter of great pleasure, and I thank Hari Kiranji for associating me with this great event. And I hope whatever little I have learned from my Guru, I will share with you in coming few minutes, which have been assigned to me. So thank you all, and let us now start. Tat Tvamasi. This is one of the Mahavakyas, and how we should understand this Mahavakya, I will try to explain as Shankara has done. To understand any philosophy and philosopher, it is necessary that we should know the worldview of that philosopher. So, first let us focus on the worldview of Shankara. In a very nutshell, this is the worldview of Shankara, that Brahma Satyam, Jagan Mithya, and Jivo Brahmaiva Naparaha. The reality is the Brahman. The world of our experience is an appearance. This is one worldview. Another worldview is that an individual self is identical with the Brahman and nothing else. So the reality is one, and one appears as many. This is the worldview of Acharya Shankara. Shankara made the categorization like this. The attributeless pure consciousness, to be very precise, it should be nirdharmaka, dharmashunya, that is the Brahman. Then jiva, conditioned attributeless pure consciousness, is called baddha. So ultimate reality is nirdharmaka, and the jiva, the individual self, is conditioned Brahma. And then Jagat is neither real nor fictitious, that is mithya. It is not false in that sense, it is neither real nor fictitious. So these are the this is the categorization of entities that Shankara did. And then he classified them in three sets: a set of Sat, one member set, only reality, and then Asat, which does not exist at all, and many which appear on the reality. So three types of entities he created for analyzing and understanding the reality, and finally taking us to understand and tell us the path by which we discover our conditioned state. So the journey is, in fact, first to identify the reality, and then that reality being attributeless, without any condition. And since we are conditioned, though the same reality, the path of transformation should be to discover that deconditioned reality. So real, fictitious, and neither real nor fictitious, these are the three categories of entities that he created. Sat, of course, the Nirdharmaka Brahman alone is Sat. So Brahma Satyam, this is what they claim. Asat, fictitious, alika is another term in Sanskrit. Now, this poem gives you a very beautiful description of what the alika can be. I want to call it alika as empty terms. I mean, these are all terms which are empty. It does not refer to anything that exists in this universe. For example, he says that Esha Bandhya Suto Yati Kapushpakrita Shekharaha Mrigatrishnam Vasisnataha Sasasingha Dhanurdharaha. Here goes the son of a barren lady. Now you can see the son of a barren lady will be an empty term, who has decorated his hair with his sky flowers. Again, sky flower is an empty term. Who has taken bath in mirage water. Again, empty term. And who has a bow made of rabbit's horn in his hands. So these fictitious entities never appear in our thought. So there is an entity which never appears in our thought. There is an entity which appears in our thought, but it does not continue forever. And behind that, at the root, there is an entity which never undergoes any change. Trikala abadhita, that is Sat. Now mithya is, now the world that he says mithya, Jagat mithya. So it is neither real nor fictitious. This is a category he has created, and for which the other systems criticized him so much, but that's not the occasion now. So that is this is a kind of a new category, a third category. Normally, what is X and no X, but it is no X. That means the fictitious, and a third category is there is something which cannot be put either in the category of real nor in the category of fictitious. So a distinct category of entities. In Sanskrit, we say Sat, Asat, Vilakshana. Vilakshana is distinct. So it's a distinct category of entity. The plural world of our experience belongs to this category. So when you say mithya, you must understand that term in this sense. So it's a positive entity, bhava padartha. So mithya is not abhava, but it is a bhava. It is a positive entity and it appears in our thought, and we have transaction with such world of our name and form. So this world is of name nama rupa. It is not Sat, but it is not Sat because it is Badhya, going to be negated at the end when you discover the truth. So this is the third category. And then what is the proof for all this classification? Shankara model is the model of the Vedanta model, and that model I call it top-down model. By top-down model, I mean you have to start from the Vedas and then match it with the experience of all of us. This is the method, all the Vedanta, because Vedanta systems are built on the basis of interpretation of the Upanishads, the Vedic literature. So Prasthanatraya, as you have heard by this time. So by interpretation of the Veda, then the system was built. So if you want a proof should be only the Veda, because other pramanas, others, pratyaksha, etc., are of no use in identifying this ultimate reality. And that is why this is the claim that from the Vedas onwards, we can start from the Vedas and then we can show this is what our experiences are. So this is the model that Vedanta, all Vedantins follow, and Shankara also follows the same. So we have top-down model. Then the Brahman is, for the Brahman, the proof, these are the sentences taken from the Veda, right from the Rig Veda, Ekam Sat. Then from Chandogya you have Sadeva Sommaidam Agrayasit, Ekameva Advitiyam. At the beginning of the creation, there was only Brahman without a second, Advitiyam. So it is attributeless. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. The Brahman is real, consciousness, and infinite. And not only that, the Brahman is bliss. So These are the statements of the Vedic, the Shruti, and Shruti is our proof. So for the claim that the reality is only one, the proof is the Vedic sentences. Thus, the truth is real, it is without a second, and hence attributeless. It is eternal, it is consciousness, it is infinite, it is bliss, it is the Brahman. Plurality is not the reality. So, Jagan Mithya. So, because straight proof, Nehana nasti kinchana. So, straightway, the Shruti tells you that there is no plurality here in reality. So, plurality is not the reality. Individual self and the Brahman are identical. And then, Jivo Brahmaiva Naparaha. For that, all these sentences are the proof. So, Aham Brahmasmi, Tattvamasi, I am the Brahman, you are the Brahman, Sarvam Khalu Idam Brahma, all this is the Brahman, Atma Eva Idam Sarvam. So you can see the Brahma, Atma, interchangeable, the same meaning. The self alone is all this. Purusha, in Purusha Sukta you have this, Purusha Eva Idam Sarvam Yaccha Bhutam Yaccha Bhavyam. So what was yesterday, what will be tomorrow, what is today, all this is nothing but the Brahman. All this present, past and future is the Brahman. So therefore, individual self is identical with the Brahman. So we all living beings are nothing but the Brahman, because in all living beings, the Atma is the same Atma, which is the ultimate reality, Nirdharmaka Brahman. However, for our explanation, we need to create degrees of reality to understand and select the path to discover our actual self. So this is the world of our transaction. It has Vyavaharika Satta. It has to be taken as real for the time being. So it is, as long as the transaction is there, the object of transaction has to be treated as real. So Vyavaharika Satta is required to be accepted. It was also accepted by the Buddhists, Samvriti Sat, for example. So it is one of the function of the philosopher to justify the world with which we all along whole life we behave. So how can you behave with anything which does not exist? So the existence of this plurality is, for the time being, is a apparent reality that has to be accepted. So Shankara accepted a category of reality called Vyavaharika Satta. So then Pratibhasika Satta, reality, one reality also again you have to accept, which is coterminous with the cognition. So as long as there is a knowledge of X, the X exists. And the moment the knowledge goes, the X also vanishes. That kind of reality. When you, for example, when you have illusions, for example. So in illusion, you see a snake. But the moment you know that it is rope, the snake evaporates, goes away. So such reality, but unless you accept reality, you cannot explain why are you running and why you stopped running. So these have to be taken for analysis, and a category of reality has to be created, and that category is the reality called Pratibhasika Satta. And of course, Paramarthika Satta, the Brahman, the ultimate reality, the Brahman. Now, Vyavaharika Satta, this is the plural world of experience, I have told you. We behave with this world all our life. We perform all three types of behavior. We go forward, we withdraw, or we may remain indifferent. So, pravritti, nivritti, or audasinya, all the three types of behavior we perform with reference to this Vyavaharika Satta, that is the world of plurality. We encounter success and we also encounter failure. So our pravritti sometimes is safala, sometimes it is bifala. So unless there is reality called the reality of the world, how can we explain the success and failure? So all this have to be answered rationally by accepting a reality called Vyavaharika Satta. In order to explain this behavior, it is necessary to accept that the world of plurality exists, hence it has transactional reality. This is the logic behind this. Pratibhasika Satta, for example, it also has Jnanaika Satta. So when existence of X is coterminous with the existence of its cognition, the X is said to be Pratibhasika Sat. All our illusions are like this. Atasmin tad buddhi, that is knowing X as Y, knowing rope as snake, knowing conch shell as silver. So all these illusions will come under this. So X appears as Y, rope appears as snake. So this existence of snake in rope is Pratibhasika Sat. But the moment the knowledge will vanish, when you say that, no, Nayam Sarpaha, so Badhya, gone. Because after knowing the rope, the Sarpa will vanish. So by knowing the reality, what appeared as a reality, as Pratibhasika Sat, will vanish. Difference between the two, that is Vyavaharika and Pratibhasika. Only duration in time. While the Pratibhasika Satta is coterminous with the cognition of the cognition, the Vyavaharika Satta will continue till our transaction with the world continues. Both the Sattas will disappear after the reality is revealed. That is when their Adhisthana is known, when rope is known, when concept is known, what appeared vanishes. Similarly, the plurality also is going to vanish when we know the reality, namely the Brahman, on which the plurality has been superimposed, or where the plurality has appeared. Now, knowing and naming, another aspect here we want to go for this, because sentence meaning Tattvamasi is our focus for the lecture. So, can take place, now knowing and naming can take place only at the level of transactional reality. Only at the Vyavaharika level, I can know something, or I can name something, express something. Because the ultimate reality, the Brahman, is beyond mind and language. Avang manaso gojara. A popular verse, many of you already know. Aho bata taror mule vriddha shishyaha gurur yuva. Gurostu maunam vyakhyanam shishyaha chinna samshayaha. Look what is happening. Under the tree, there are disciples pretty old, but the teacher is so young. The teacher is giving the discourse without uttering a word, but the doubts of the disciples are getting cleared. What a miracle. This is said about Shankara. So, implying thereby that you cannot talk about the ultimate reality in language, because neither your mind can capture that, nor your language can capture that. But this that we all are talking about it. So how is it happening? Language cannot capture the Brahman. The Upanishad clearly tells you, yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasasaha. Without reaching there, language returns along with the mind. So it cannot be the object of your mind. It cannot be object of your language. So how can language capture the reality? Because the Brahman is attributeless. And language can capture only that entity which has a structure, can capture only that entity which has a structure. So if something is like this, which is the dharma means locus, and dharma is the property located there. So if this is the structure of any entity, say ghata. So ghata and ghatatva, this has a structure. So with this dharma, with the dharma, I can name the dharmin. So language requires shabda pravritti nimitta, a ground for application of a term. So ghatatva, without ghatatva, language cannot say this is ghata. So here also, now we can say we can have brahmatva, then brahmatva will be a dharma in addition to the dharmi. And so then the oneness will go. And therefore, this is not acceptable to the Shankara philosophy. Brahman is attributeless and hence has no structure of dharma dharmi bhava. So there's no brahmatva, then sambandha, and then Brahma. That picture you cannot draw about Brahman, because Brahman is attributeless. And so it is beyond the scope of language. Therefore, I have explained to you that why language cannot operate with reference to an entity which is posited as attributeless. The moment you posit some entity as attributeless, then we have no attribute, and if no attribute, and language cannot work without an attribute, and therefore Brahman is beyond language, and since it beyond language means because it is beyond mind as well, and therefore then the question, therefore the problem is then how to understand the sentence Tat Tvam Asi. In his Tattva Bodha, Shankara shows the way. The word Tat refers to Ishvara, Sarva, this is the primary meaning of the word term Tat, Sarvagyatva Vishishta, Chaitanya, through the primary relationship, Abhidha, and Tvam refers to Jiva, which is defined as Kinchit Gyatva Vishishta Chaitanya. He is a limited knowledge and he has unlimited knowledge. And then Asi is an identity of Abheda. So how can both be identical? So how can we have the Tat is equal to Tvam, but the sentence tells you Tat is equal to Tvam. This is Abheda Shruti. So how can there be Abheda, identity between Tat and Tvam? Because what it means is Ishvara, what it means is Jiva, and they cannot be identical because one is conditioned and one has an enormous property, dharma, by which he is called Ishvara. By the way, Ishvara also is a postulation by Shankara, because ultimate reality is even beyond Ishvara, called Nirdharmaka Brahman. And Shankara's answer, here we will take recourse to Lakshana. So there is a method. When the primary meaning does not convey the intended meaning, does not suit the intended meaning, you go for another relationship between word and meaning called Lakshana. This is called extended relationship. Thus the word Tat will mean Shuddha Chaitanya by Lakshana, Nirdharmaka Brahman by Lakshana, and the word Tvam will also mean Shuddha Chaitanya, Nirdharmaka Brahman by Lakshana. Thus, in this way, there will be no problem in understanding the identity between individual self and the Brahman conveyed by the sentence, you are that. This type of Lakshana is called Jahad Ajahad Lakshana, according to which a part of the primary meaning is dropped, is given up, and a part is retained. Here, a question arises. It is not proper to say Shuddha Chaitanya is identical with Shuddha. So you have Tat gives you Shuddha Chaitanya, Tvam gives you Shuddha Chaitanya, and then there is an identity. So then, are there two Shuddha Chaitanyas? this will be a question. Therefore, the word asi also should mean, so that should Shuddha Chaitanya again by Lakshana. So all the three words in the sentence, Tat, Tvam and Asi, all the three by Lakshana should give you Shuddha Chaitanya as the meaning. Thus, the sentence Tat Tvam Asi will give us Shuddha Chaitanya, Shuddha Chaitanya, Shuddha Chaitanya. In other words, only Chaitanya, Shuddha Chaitanya. The intended meanings are not different, and hence in this sentence meaning no relation. So therefore Asi was the relation, no relation appears. Here the definition of samsarga vakyartha will not apply. So laukika vakya, ordinary sentence, when you understand this is samsarga vishayaka shabdabodha. The shabdabodha, the samsarga appears. The relation appears between two meanings, but here there are no two things, and therefore the relation other than this cannot appear here. And then what is the way out? The way out is we must give up the method of decoding the sentence Tat Tvam Asi by the usual process of decoding an ordinary sentence. And we should accept Vakya Lakshana. The whole sentence Tat Tvam Asi should convey Shuddha Chaitanya by Lakshana. So you should accept Shuddha Chaitanya will be called Akhandartha, no components in it of the sentence Tattvamasi. Sentences like Tattvamasi are called Mahavakya, we all know. Other sentences, the meaning of all Mahavakya should be derived in this way. So you must accept Vakya Lakshana. So Padalakshana will not give you this meaning. You must go for Vakya Lakshana. This is the solution. Ramaraya Kavi in his Vedanta Sangraha, Vedanta Sangraha has directly suggested. You can look into that for great detail. Philosophy of oneness of Shankara is an invaluable gift to humanity, my friends. It can transform the whole world. When the whole world is engaged in celebrating difference, Shankara's thought gives us a hope to live as a member of one global family. I bow down to that great philosopher, the Jivan Mukta. Once again, I thank you all for making a part, associating me with this great event. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Jha. That was extremely brilliant and very simply put. I feel like I was listening to a lecture in a university, so clearly laid out. I'm sure if you had a test at the end of it, we all know exactly how to answer those questions. Very, very clear.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we have a few questions. Actually, we have lots of questions, and I will try to cover some of them. I think you have elaborated so clearly that certain words cannot be described by language. So one of our attendees asks, then how do you explain Satchidananda by language?
Yeah, again, the same problem. Answer is already given by me. How do we call Brahman? So there is no other way. So only when we come back to Vyavaharika level, we alone can talk about that. At that level, we cannot talk about it. So there is no language at the transformed level. So only at the level of Vyavaharika Jagat, we can assume some dharma, and through that language can operate. What is absolutely required by language is that language must be provided a dharma. Without dharma, dharmi cannot be named. So you have to assume something, and only through that you can talk about it. And that is why I gave you that Gurostu Maunam Vyakhyanam. That is what was intended. That Shankara is explaining Brahman, but he's not talking at all. So it can be only realized. It can be only realized. You cannot talk about it at that level. But when you are at the level of Vyavaharika Sat, when you have no other instrument other than language to communicate, then you have to assume a dharma, and through that you have to. So you say some Brahmatva, you posit Brahmatva, but knowing fully well that Brahmatva has nothing to do with Brahman, because that is Nirdharmaka. That is what is meant.
Very good, sir. So you're saying it cannot be described; it has to be experienced. So can you give some tips to our attendees on this is experiencing this Tattvamasi in our everyday life?
Now, for example, it's sometimes you enjoy some good dish, for example. Now, but if you fail to describe it, so this is a kind of exactly not the case, but it is exactly the same thing. So the reality is there, you experience, but it's very difficult to capture it. So that is the way we should think. That I mean, in our day-to-day life also, we encounter such experiences, that we experience something, but it's very difficult to convey the whole thing in language. This is our incapacity, because we are all conditioned. So in the conditioned state, the condition in language also continues.
Very interesting, and I like the way you ended with sort of how we describe Dakshinamurti, sitting under the tree and older people sitting there, and he's not talking, but there's so much wisdom is being transferred.
Discourse is on, but the discourse is on.
Discourse is all without language.
and without language. So exactly, wonderful. This is what is, yeah.
Wonderful. So there's also a question from Mr. Udayji. It seems very technical. Can Mrugatrishna be categorized as Pratibhashik Satta?
Mrugatrishna?
Yeah, Mrugatrishna.
No, Mrugatrishna is the mirage. Mirage is the reality. But water in the mirage, when you see the mirage as water is Pratibhashika, and mirage will be Vyavaharika. Rope is Vyavaharika, and snake is Pratibhashika. Shukti is Vyavaharika, and Rajata is Pratibhashika. I hope I'm clear.
Yes. Yeah. We'll take one more very quick question and move on. Somebody is telling, sir, if these concepts are so abstract and very difficult, how do you make someone follow it, especially younger people? So how do we teach younger people this thing that you cannot describe yet you have experience?
I mean, to be very frank, it appears so rational to me. Now, for last 2 weeks, I am teaching Tattva Bodha of Shankara online through Zoom.
Oh.
And and it is amazing. And so many young people have joined, and they are enjoying, and they say, well, this is something which we can never imagine. That it is full of rationality. Only thing that it is not presented in that way. So it is our fault and not the fault of the listeners.
Wonderful, sir. That's very true. Actually, the fact that everything is rational. In fact, I think yesterday somebody said, Adi Shankara's the entire strategy of debates came because everything is rational, explainable, it's clear. There he has a strong conviction, which is why he can go to these debates so confidently.
You can imagine that you have a glass of water before you, and you say, this is mithya. What kind of rationale is required to convince you that this is mithya? And he did that. So Shankara without rationality, you can't follow then Shankara at all. It is rationality and rationality and rationality.
Wonderful. Sir, you mentioned about your online class and some people want to know how they can join. Is it only with the university or is it available?
No, it is for all, but I think I'm using that restriction of 100 people can join,
I see. So Where can
But
people
I
find
can,
information about
if you send me your email IDs, and then I will add whosoever comes. If the number goes beyond 100, then perhaps you may not get chance. The Zoom may not allow. That's all. But I can add. I can add in the group. No problem.
Okay. So
V N Jha,
V and Ja.
VN Jha 1946
Yes.
at gmail.com.
Okay. That was extremely kind of you to share your email and contact information. So all the attendees, if you're interested in this particular online Tattva class, and if you're lucky enough to be in the first 100,
On Monday, I'm going to talk on Avidya, Maya, all that. So if you are all welcome.
very good, sir. Professor, thank you so much. That was, the enthusiasm, your delivery mechanism was extremely simple, very clear. We really appreciate your time that you took from your busy schedule to come and be part of the festival. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your kindness. Thank you.
Yes.